In 1879, the government funded Pratt's project, the first ever off-reservation boarding school for Native American children. His motto was to kill the Indian and save the man. What started there at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School was nothing short of genocide, disguised as American education. Children were forcibly taken from reservations and placed into the school, hundreds, even thousands of miles away from their families. They were stripped of their traditional clothing, their hair was cut short. They were given new names and forbidden from speaking their native languages.
And after that, children were routinely segregated so that by 1930 there were 15 Mexican schools distributed throughout the county. Orange County was not any different from other areas of the Southwest. Los Angeles routinely segregated Mexican children into what were called neighborhood schools. One study found that somewhere between 80 and 90% of all school districts segregated Mexican children in the Southwest.
Pretty much every...
They became known as the Little Rock Nine. The 1954 Supreme Court ruling on Brown versus the Board of Education found segregation of schools unconstitutional. But as the Little Rock Nine approached the high school, segregationists swarmed the campus.
I got no business out here. This is our school, not theirs. They are their own.
As the violence escalated, one schoolgirl, Elizabeth Eckford, was threatened by an angry mob chanting, "Lynch her, lynch her."
Silva's favorite English teacher, Mrs. Evelyn Davis, organized the mock funeral for Mr. Spanish.
Buried that box, and because everyone had wrote the word Spanish in that piece, in their own piece of paper, they buried Mr. Spanish and told us from that day on we were not allowed to speak Spanish in school.
Later that day, one of Silva's older classmates vowed, "Nadie me va a quitar que hable el español. No one will take my Spanish away." A teacher overheard, and the fourth grader got paddled, as more would in years to come.
We were young, we were idealistic, we were fearless.
We knew we had a culture, we knew we had a history, and it wasn't being taught.
It was a struggle for self-determination.
We dressed similarly. You're Puerto Ricans and the blacks at that time with the leather coat, the short skin pants.
Where colonialism has been imposed, it's enough.
All we're talking about is getting a better education.
That you could insist on the Puerto Rican Studies Department. How dare you?
And then we realize our power.
Steps.
My homemaking teacher, she would say, "You know, you little Mexicans, you better learn and pay attention. This class is very important because, you know, most of you are going to be cooking and cleaning for other people."
It was real clear to me that there was a definite tracking system. Some students went into the academia tracking and were being prepared to go to college. Others were being tracked into going into the shop classes, into the vocational areas. It wasn't that there was anything wrong with that, but you didn't have a choice. You were tracked into those areas.
Steps.
It's a showdown in Arizona over the right to teach American history, American government, art, and literature from a Mexican-American perspective.
Culture clash tackles, looks like, what kind of issues would we call those? Social justice issues. So racism, classism, xenophobia.
Those numbers.
So you went from a under-resourced struggling system to an under-resourced struggling system deeply, profoundly damaged by the hurricane.
The vast majority of children in the school system are low income, and the education department is this vast bureaucracy that has a history of financial mismanagement. And even though these children are US citizens, the way the federal government funds them is very different from the funding formula that, say, children on the mainland receive.
Well, I think it goes to the politics of colonialism. It goes to the politics of the island being treated not as a state would be, but rather treated as a possession of the United States.
The federal government doesn't even publish Puerto Rico's graduation rate, and their test scores are really bad.
The NAEP scores this year, in 8th grade, there was not one student, not one, who demonstrated proficiency.
Question, guys? 7th grade students in Jackson Heights, Queens are preparing for an exam. The Specialized High School Admissions Test, or SHSAT, is the sole requirement to gain admission to one of the 8 such high schools in New York City.
This year, Stuyvesant High School, the school with the highest cutoff score, made headlines when out of the nearly 900 slots that it had available, only 7 went to black students. So the test has become the center of a fierce debate between academic rigor, equal access, and diversity in New York's specialized high schools.
Black and Latino students make up 70% of the students in New York City, yet this year they received just over 10% of the offers from the 8 schools.
In constant fear, a new University of Houston study finds 2/3 of Harris County Latino students are scared of being deported. This constant state of worry may lead to mental health problems like anxiety, PTSD, or depression.
I don't know. For those who can't imagine what homelessness is like, I don't know. I can only explain what it's like in one day of my life, right? So I would come to school, a full day of school, and I would stay here for as long as possible, to 9, and then I would hit the street. I would have to leave, and sometimes I wouldn't have eaten the entire day. So apart from being hungry, there was also the worry of where am I going to go next, and it's like you're in a state of limbo.